Hello and welcome to Spinster's Library. I'm Claudia. You've read the title. Let me show you the ugliest covers on my classics bookshelves. I get my books from charity shops, and that means that I don't always get to take home the gorgeous, beautifully designed, gilded, foiled, aesthetic book covers. Sometimes they're just plain ugly, and today I want to share those with you. I should note that this is only my opinion, and some of these books that I'm showing you today are only on there because I don't like the colour or other very petty, very personal things. So if you love these covers, then let me know in the comments below, and both of our opinions can be valid at the same time. Isn't that wonderful? The first book is a Victorian classic, and that is Silas Marner by George Eliot. This is actually the book that inspired my makeup today. I don't know if you can tell. It's a somewhat horrifying combination of magenta and yellow. But that's not all. If you look at this, the person who colorized this illustration clearly just randomly slapped the colors white, yellow, and magenta onto the people in the scene. So you get one guy here with a bright pink face, this guy over here with pink hair, which in the 1860s I'm sure was very fashion forward. This woman here is straight up yellow, and this woman here is straight up white. I don't know who thought this was a good idea. To be fair, this edition is quite old. This book was printed in 1966, and it is one of the few cases where I paid more money to get this second-hand in a charity shop than the person who first bought it in 1966, because if you look at that on the back, it originally cost 25p, and this is the amount that I paid for it. £1.99. Obviously, 25p in 1966 was probably a lot more money than £1.99 in the 21st century, because such is the way of inflation. Anyway, even though this is an incredibly ugly book cover, I do kind of like for how 60s this colour combination is. You can just imagine people walking around in patterned dresses and shirts in those colours, and yeah, it's very of its time. The next book is Dracula by Bram Stoker, and I know it's a horror novel, but this is truly horrifying. This is an example of the infamously hideous Wordsworth Classics edition covers. It's like they pick the worst possible picture to put on the front, and then they do that. I don't even know what they were thinking with this. He doesn't even look that scary, he just looks kind of mildly disgruntled. Though I can sympathise with those under-eye circles. Can't see them now thanks to concealer and glasses, but that's pretty much what I look like in the morning. Continuing with another Wordsworth Classics edition, this is Persuasion by Jane Austen. Come on! This is not the aesthetic we want, is it? Who even is this supposed to be? Because I don't think you would ever see Anne Elliot caught dead in that dress, bonnet, umbrella and scarf combo. This kind of combination of pastels is definitely evocative of the 1980s to me, so let's see when this was actually printed. 1993. Close. Yes, again, very off its time. I was born in 1991, and I'm sure I have pictures of myself wearing that interesting combination of pastel colours with about as many ruffles as this dress. Okay, the next one is one I really, truly despise. Not the book is fine, but the cover. And it's this edition of A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. Faces on book covers, always a bit tricky. Photographs of faces on book covers. And then this face on a book cover. Bad choice, bad decision, bad choice. I don't like orange either. I mean, okay, I get it, right? It's called A Clockwork Orange. You want to incorporate the colour orange into the cover. That makes sense. Why choose this picture of a man with his head cut off here and a chain lying over his face, and then these random ridges down there. No. Right, the next cover is me being really picky, because I can admit that objectively this is a well-designed cover. This is well done. This is modern. It's my favourite novel, by the way, The Picture of Dorian Gray. I like the design itself, like the silhouette here. I like the little skulls here, kind of a dark and foreboding, just like the book. But why is it orange again? What is it with the colour orange? Okay, cool, it's attention grabbing. If you see this in a bookshop, you might be inclined to have a look at that. But other colours are attention grabbing and, in my opinion, more fitting for the novel. Why not make this a rich purple or a velvety scarlet or a deep emerald green? Now that would be a colour that, in my opinion, fits the novel much more than this really bright, almost neon orange. I don't get it. This, by the way, is the Alma Classics edition. Nice design, bad colour choice. But then again, I have an aversion to orange. I realise that not everyone does. Some people actually like the colour orange. We move on to a cover that is ugly, but it does kind of fit the story. And it is this version of I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. Let's have a look at these zombie vampire creatures. Yeah, it's a choice. I get that this actually fits the novel quite well, because the novel itself is dark and gory and terrifying, but this is not my aesthetic preference in a book. This one, okay, before I hold this up, I know there are stickers on this cover. I got so many comments last time I held this up in a video about the stickers. I tried to get the stickers off. They are not coming off. You can forward your complaints about this to the YMCA, because that is where I bought this secondhand edition of Passage to India by Ian Forster. And this is not ugly as such. It is pleasing enough, but it is a very uninspired and trope and cliche laden cover design, isn't it? You've got some intricate looking elephants that are just kind of copied and pasted all over this cover, front and back. And then you've got this script here, again, which just looks kind of slapped on there to evoke some sort of sense of the exotic India, with no real regard for the actual content of the book. So while this is not ugly, I do find it uninspired and disappointing. And I guess the same you could say about my next choice, which is this cover for 1984 by George Orwell. This is Penguin Modern Classics. Oh, so is this one, by the way. Also Penguin Fiction, not Classics. And this is Penguin Modern Classics. And it's just a bit bland, isn't it? It's not ugly, but I don't like the graffitied 1984 over the written 1984, and I get the feeling that they wanted to do this because people don't realise that the book is called 1984 the letters and not 1984 the numbers, and I guess maybe the designer thought that people weren't going to realise that that's the same book. I don't really know. Also, what is this very heavily edited picture here? It looks like two people embracing, so I guess the aspect of sexuality in this book, but it looks so badly done. When I think of 1984, I first and foremost think of the technological oppression. That's something you could have done in a cover really well by having a sort of dark, rusty, grimy steampunk aesthetic, maybe even something that's grey and evocative of the oppressive nature of technology in this book. But no, this is the choice they made. And then we already get to the last two books, and they are both also Penguin. What are these penguins called? Penguin Red Classics editions. of Sherlock Holmes. So we've got the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, which is a short story collection, and The Last Bow and the Casebook of Sherlock Holmes, which is 2 short story editions. They've just combined them into one book here. And these are not ugly, right? These are well done, well designed covers, kind of evocative of the sort of Penny Dreadful archetype, the sort of early horror novels, but these are not horror. Sure, while there is murder in every second of these short stories, the others usually being jewellery theft, they are not this. They are not bloody, they are not gory, they are not scary. What's this about? What is this about? Same with this. This looks like it could be a cover for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde rather than Sherlock Holmes. It does not fit the content of these stories. So aesthetically not a bad choice. I'm not embarrassed to have these on my shelf, but they just don't quite communicate the right image. I can imagine that someone who is drawn to this cover then reads this book and is quite disappointed by that. And while they say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, that is literally what book covers are there to do. So, doesn't match for me. Anyway, those were 10 classics that, in my opinion, have rather hideous covers that I have on my shelves. Some are more offensive than others for sure. Let me know your opinions about them down below, and let me know what your worst offending book cover is. If you write down the title and the edition, then I can hopefully Google image search it and see for myself. But you know what, I personally don't mind having the odd ugly cover on my shelf. First of all, you don't see them because what you see is the spine, and the spines are much less offensive than the rest of the cover. So it's really no big deal, and I know that that is the sacrifice I'm willing to make in order to get my books mostly secondhand, as I do. But I also get if you're the sort of person who really puts a lot of value on the aesthetics of a book, and maybe one day in the future I will be in a position where I can be a little bit more picky with my editions too. But for now, it's enough to just laugh at these covers and remember that what's inside a book matters. Thank you for watching. Bye!